Hey everybody, my name's Enzo.
I'm Morgan.
And this is Have You Ever Heard? Every time here on this podcast, we are going to look at an album that one of us knows and loves and that we have decided to share with the other person. Morgan, what do you think about what our show is going to be?
I'm really excited. I kind of have a little gag first to start that I have not told you about.
What?
But getting into our first podcast here, our album is obviously Bruce Springsteen album.
It is, yeah.
As we will see. When Enzo was in Sweden, he got me a Bob Dylan CD because I love Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Here I was at the flea market.
Whoa!
And I saw this and I said, I think I need to get that one.
Oh my God. Bruce Springsteen Greatest Hits. I'll add it to my Springsteen collection. Thank you so much, Morgan. That's so nice. So that's a great way to segue in. Today, I chose the album for Morgan to listen to. It's an album that has increased relevancy now. It's Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska. So this is a lesser-known album. It's definitely a departure from Springsteen's regular popular sound. And the Springsteen biopic that's coming out is about the making of this album. So this is an album I just discovered this year and fell in love with. So Morgan, what did you think about this album?
I actually did not know that the movie was going to be the making of this album. So that's really cool because when I was looking at the streams, I was like, these are like lower numbers I wasn't expecting from him. First off, I would like to say I do not have Spotify Premium. I don't pay for Apple Music. I have ads in between my songs. So if my view is a little skewed on anything, blame the ads.
It's okay.
Blame the ads.
Right.
So I listened to this album twice through. One was a test that I do with every single album, and it is, can I listen to this going to bed? Will it put me to sleep? This failed the bed test because right off rip in Nebraska, the first song of the album, that beautiful harmonica woke me right up. So it did not go through that. But just because it didn't put me to bed does not mean that is a bad thing.
That's an interesting. Yeah. I feel like a bad album would put me to bed more than a good album.
Really? So I look for albums that I'm like, okay, like I enjoy listening to this in my free time, but it brings me so much peace, like with it, that I'm like, okay, I could rest to this. And I do tend to listen to like folk or jazz going to bed.
I can see that.
But going that harmonica straight off rip. Maybe if it was in the middle of the song,
it's an aggressive harmonica.
It is. It's like straight up front, but that's perfectly okay. If I had to give this album a vibe, because I like to give my albums vibes that I listen to, I'm driving through the mountains. It's sunset, and I have a deep sense of yearning. Like I really, really want something
that you can't get.
That I can't get.
Yeah.
Like that is the feeling that this album brought to me. And I thought that was such an interesting feeling just to get from listening to an album midday on like a Tuesday. Like it's bright and sunny outside. Why do I feel like this? But it was just so emotional. And I did like the folk roots, and into it kind of gave like Dylan Goes Electric, because toward the end of the album you're hearing like the progression in his music. So one of my favorite songs on the album was Open All Night. And there's like not a lot of streams on that compared to everything else on the album.
Yeah, not a lot of people talk about that song. That's that is tied for my favorite on the album.
That actually. I was like really impressed. I was like, wow, where are all the listens on this one? And it does toward the end feel a little unfinished, but I kind of liked that. And I thought this was a really good album, but it was not my favorite Springsteen album.
Okay. What is your favorite? You're wearing a Human Touch t-shirt right now.
This is my Springsteen t-shirt. This is my dad's from when he went to a Springsteen concert in whatever year. I don't know what it was. The fact that my dad and I are the same size t-shirts sometimes, so it's really funny because if you see him, he's 6 foot and I'm 5'2", so why am I fitting in his clothes?
What happened there?
I'll never know. But I really do like Born to Run from Bruce Springsteen.
That's my favorite.
It's like, it's so good. Like, it's a classic. But yeah, I would love to learn some history about this.
Yeah, so this album has fascinating history because, and I'm so happy that you said that the song was great. You said it's great, but it felt unfinished. This whole album has an unfinished quality to it because, do you know any of the background of how this was recorded?
Yeah.
So, at this point in Bruce's career, he had just released The River. Have you heard of that album? It was his first number one. and it kind of catapulted him to superstardom. He started off kind of indie. The record was pushing him to be the new Bob Dylan. He broke into the mainstream with Born to Run. He had Darkness on the Edge of Town and then The River, which were both massive hits for him, and made him this rock god. And after The River, the studio wanted him. They're like, all right, now is when you need to make your big break. This is when you capitalize on this. And he started working on Born in the USA. That was the album that came after this. But something stopped him from really completing all of that. He always sings about his working class roots and growing up in middle class America, and he felt like he was betraying that part of himself if he was to just jump right into superstar rock stardom. And he had this deep undiagnosed depression that he fell into kind of after the Rivers world tour. And what he essentially did, it was like November, December of 1981, he got a rental house in New Jersey, and he just sat by himself and recorded songs. And they were different from his regular stuff. They were supposed to be demos. And he was just in a really dark headspace. And these were the songs that he wrote. He recorded them on a 4-track cassette recorder, which was like brand new technology in 1981. And they were never intended to be released like that, because you're not going to release a scratchy, crappy sounding cassette tape. So he wrote these really, really dark, depressing songs like you hear on the album, took them to the studio, and his manager listened to them, and he said, "Bruce, I'm concerned about you." He said, like, these aren't what's happening. They tried to record them with the band, and whatever the band could come up with to make them electric, it didn't feel right in Springsteen's eyes. He said the acoustic ones that he recorded in his bedroom in New Jersey were the only ones that felt true. And he made the decision, which has never been made before, he had the cassette and he said, let's just release this. And that's what Nebraska is. It's that cassette. Now Springsteen is a perfectionist. He would write like hundreds of songs literally for an album and then have to pick 10 of them to put on it. And he would pore over every single word, every single line, every single piece of music, every layer of every track. And when he wrote Nebraska, he didn't even know he was writing an album. He was just writing songs to cope with this weird liminal space he was in and help him kind of soothe his depression that was undiagnosed. He wrote those songs, didn't even know he was making an album, and then they put it out there. So in interviews with him, he's very critical of his own work, but this is the only album where he says that was a great album.
Wait, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So, like, something so unfinished. I feel like a lot of people, like, feel that, like, in themselves, they're like, oh, this is unfinished, it's not good. But you could see, like, famous people being like, no, like, this is my perfect work because it's a piece of me. Like, it seems like it's a genuine piece of him.
There's so much authenticity because
like,
he was writing it for nobody but himself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when he's rejecting, like, the electricness of it and just being like, this is what I want. And I think it's really important when artists stick up for themselves and be like, this is my brand. Like, this is what I want to put out and I want to be authentic. But what I did like before is when you mentioned that he was, like, part of, like, the middle class, hardworking. I feel like that's really how a lot of Americans are too. So he had such a big audience just in that, just the understanding of the everyday American. So I didn't realize, like, I don't know much about him at all, other than I own this T-shirt. So that in the movie, and so I'm excited to watch this movie because I feel like I haven't known enough about him.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this to come out because it's based on a book.
Right.
I read the book back in January, and that's part of the reason why I know so much about it. But it's really interesting because, like, where most musical biopics are about their whole career, this is just about like a few months in Springsteen's life. So much happened where, like, people say, and I agree, if Springsteen never took the time to kind of work through all of his feelings and process what he was feeling and make Nebraska, he would have never become who he became. Mm-hmm. Because since Nebraska came out, when it did release in 1982, there was no interviews for it. There was no ad campaigns for it. There was nothing. There was no tour to promote it. which is unprecedented. Who does that, especially when you're one of the biggest stars in the world? But because he kind of made this really organic album and put it out in a really organic way, that made him come to terms, and he was able to make Born in the USA and then become the biggest star in the world. So like he needed to process these feelings in order to become who he became later. And I think that makes this a really crucial part of his career. Where like you look at either side of it, The River and Born in the USA, there's such high energy albums with so many like rockers and anthems on it. And then this is in the middle. It's like, what's that? This ugly, rough, acoustic album. So it's really cool to see that.
Do you know what the public's response was when this album came out?
I think that because it was so like understated, people were really confused. I was definitely confused when I was like going through just Springsteen's discography, seeing what the albums were. I thought it was like a mistake on Spotify. I'm like, wait, Nebraska? Because later in Springsteen's career, he had like this like sad cowboy era in like the 90s. I'm like, wait, why is this in between these two classic albums? What is this doing there? And I kind of like rejected the ugliness to it. And I feel like a lot of people did have that response, where it's an album, and the book goes into this a lot. It's an album that nobody can force upon you, unless I force it upon you. But you kind of have to discover it for yourself. You have to take this down and be like, all right, let me listen to this weird sounding album and decide myself how I feel about it. And that's what I think makes it really good music, like really alive music.
And I love that too, and especially now with streaming platforms, you could go in and pick, but you have to think when people were purchasing these albums like on vinyl CDs, like everything like that,
it was a commitment.
You don't know what you're getting into. He like had no acknowledgement toward this album. I'm sure just like released.
Yeah.
People just bought it and they're like, who is this?
Yeah.
So I wonder if that made people more wary to get his next album, or if they were like, it's Bruce, let's see what he has next.
Yeah, I think that the people who did take the time to let it marinate and to fully let it sink in, it did always get really positive reviews, because like once you get to know it, there's some really great stories on the album, and like I don't know how much you went into the lyrics, but all of that, and Bruce is one of the, I say he's the best songwriter of all time. That's just me, but some of his best work is on this album. It's very rough, and it's very, like you said, Open All Night. That song is just like, it's breathless. Like, the lyrics come so fast, and it's just about driving home through the night, and it's just like, I gotta get home, and it's just a stream of consciousness all throughout the night, and he's repeating himself, and he's doing these things, and it just feels like it was written in a first take, and there's just something so pure about that.
There's something I wrote down. I want to get the wording right because I feel like it like applies. Let me see. I said, this album makes me feel like I just got bad news, but I feel relieved getting it.
Ooh, all right.
So I feel like that might have been like the gist, like he's in this depression, but he's relieving himself like through music, through song, and letting the world know who he really is. And the fact that, like, as a first-time listener to this album, I was able to, like, understand that. Like, I did feel like I was, like, understanding. Yes, I did try to sleep through the album at first, and it failed. But the actual listen-through of the album, like, I was able to get that feeling toward it. And that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
So that's, like, power to him, because he is a great storyteller. He's a great songwriter. And he kind of has, I would say earlier in his career, a little bit more of like a twang. It's a bit harder to understand what he's saying and
He's
stuff.
very gravelly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So even then, when you're not fully understanding, I was going through like watching the lyrics and everything. I was like, I really feel some type of way toward this album that I was not expecting. Another
thing I love about it is, since, you know, he wasn't writing this album to be an album, there were just songs coming out of him. There's a lot of and you only pick up on this the more you listen to it, there's a lot of lines that show up in multiple songs. Like in Atlantic City and Johnny 99, he says, I got debts no honest man can pay. Really specifically worded in two separate songs. In Open All Night and State Trooper, they're essentially the exact same song, pretty much the same lyrics, one song to another, but incredibly different vibes.
Mhm.
And both songs end with the line, "Deliver me from nowhere." Again, a very specific line.
Right.
That's the name of
Name
the
of the
movie.
movie.
That's the name of the movie. "Deliver me from nowhere." And it's great because State Trooper comes before Open All Night on the album. And State Trooper is a very menacing song. It's just like a constant chugging of a guitar and just really subdued, vocals. And then it ends with "Deliver Me from Nowhere." And it's like, oh, it's this guy, he's in a depression. He's feeling empty. Just take me out of it, deliver me from nowhere. "Open All Night" sounds like just a regular, sounds like a rocker. Sounds like a Springsteen song. It's like a blues guitar,
Yeah.
and it's upbeat. And as it goes on, you realize something's kind of wrong. Like, he's repeating himself. He's not really. It's just a stream of consciousness. And that ends with "Deliver Me from Nowhere." So it just shows the headspace that he was in and the phrases that kept coming into his head. No album has given me such a view into the artistic process.
Right.
You could really see an artist who's just searching for his next thing in this album. You could see through his mind, I think. And
Yeah,
I love that about it.
It's just so raw, and I feel like a lot of people now will be like, my song needs to be perfect, my lyrics need to be this, I have to match this to this, I need to diss this person and put on this. Sometimes the best thing that you could ever do for yourself is just show how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And that's really what this album's doing here.
Definitely. Before we wrap up, Morgan, do you have any last thoughts about this album?
I think this album is really just emotional. I was not expecting it, and I really enjoyed learning the history and stuff of it, so that was really great. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Listen to this album, form your own opinion on it. It's one of my favorites, and I'm happy that I could share it with you and kind of turn you on to some Springsteen before the movie comes out.
Right, love it.
Yeah, one last thing actually. This month, the week before the movie comes out, they are releasing a box set of Electric Nebraska. So they did record the electric versions of the songs in 1982 and were never released until now. So there's outtakes that Springsteen recorded like the other ones in his bedroom that were never heard before, and then the versions with the E Street Band. And they're coming out this month, so that's just another piece of the puzzle.
Right.
I can't wait to hear it. He's already released a couple of the tracks, but he's just the gift that keeps on giving, Bruce Springsteen.
He's really been at it this year, I will say.
He released 7 albums
everything.
in July alone. And I love it, and I love this album. Is such a strange to look at. It's such a strange part of his career, but such a crucial one, and one that you can't miss, I think.
Thank you all for watching. I hope we opened your eyes a little bit on some new albums here, and check in next time. We'll have a completely different album with a different genre that I chose for Enzo.
All right.